Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
If you're not failing, you're not growing fast enough. It means you probably peaked in kindergarten. You should be falling down. If you feel like you are even succeeding through effort, it's not a complete disaster 70% of the time, isn't that pretty great?
Are you a teen or adult looking for more happiness in every day and ways to connect with people in your life?
You've come to the right place. Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
And we're the two teens behind Small Bits of Happiness.
We're interviewing Olympic athletes, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and more.
Throughout all of our episodes, you'll find great conversations, hacks that you can take away and try in your life, inspiration, as well as unique and surprising insights. Today, we are speaking with Rachael Leigh Cook.
And so that interest in fashion led me towards wanting to do print work. And then print work sort of has a natural segue to trying acting, which I thought I couldn't do.
Rachael Leigh Cook, welcome.
Rachael Leigh Cook of Rachael Leigh Cook.
The actress and producer has been in the original The Babysitter's Club, She's All That, He's All That, and more. How do you manage facing judgment from people who don't know you?
Brass tacks, the best practical news I got about all of that is that as you get older, you care less.
What are your top 3 tips for teens to be able to be more authentic?
People don't feel like they know exactly who they are.
Have you ever learned anything from portraying one of your characters?
Being younger, it helps you tap into different versions or facets of yourself. I remember I did this movie.
Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Welcome, Rachael.
Thank you so very much, Mercedes and Anastasia. Pleasure to be on your program. Thank you. How old do I sound saying program? My goodness.
No, you're all good. Thank you so much. You are an iconic actress, and so Anastasia and I are just so excited to have you on today.
Thank you, and thank you to your parents who probably are the ones who knew who I am.
No, we love the movies. We love the movies.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Of course. Take us back to the beginning of your journey as a teen. How did you first find your interest in acting at 15?
Well, I guess you could trace it back even a little bit earlier than that. I had an interest in fashion, as you guys clearly do too. And that always led me to what I thought was the height of fashion at the time was the Target advertisements and like the Sunday newspaper that we would get way back in the day when newspapers were more common. And I just felt so envious of those kids and those ads. And I felt like, oh man, I wish that could be me someday. And then funny enough, they, photographed all of that advertising in Minneapolis, which was my hometown. Maybe I subliminally knew that, maybe I didn't. And so that interest in fashion led me towards wanting to do print work. And then print work sort of has a natural segue to trying acting, which I thought I couldn't do because I'm not much of a singer. But I guess the sort of lesson there, if you wanted to try and find one, was that even what seems like a minor interest can really lead you towards what becomes your passion.
Oh, I love
that so much. And I think that definitely your journey has been so diverse. I mean, starting out as just doing modeling, like print work, and then going to acting, and you've done so much. What do you think your biggest challenge has been throughout your entire journey?
And how did you overcome it? We just want to quickly say, check out our happiness wellness products designed by us for individuals of all ages to help you bring a small bit of happiness to your home with our tangible tips and tools. Check them out in the show notes.
Oh my God, thank you guys for thinking that I have it all figured out, because I promise, even though I'm, 3 times your age probably, and then some, that you still don't have it all figured out. But what I do promise you, and what I would want to promise myself at your age, is that it matters less and that you care less, so it's okay, and you feel really comfy talking about your failures. I'd say that the biggest challenge I had was knowing that I was very lucky sort of early on, and then having to sort of go on that roller coaster ride of big uncertainty and go, oh dear, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But luck's favorite thing is effort. So if you really are willing to sort of put in the work, you'll be rewarded for that in one way or another.
I love the saying.
That so
I
much.
love luck's favorite word is effort, or I just think that's so true. Like a lot of the times we're like, oh, they're so lucky, he's so lucky, she's so lucky, they get to have this opportunity, they get to have this career, they get to follow their dreams, but it's like you have to put in the effort
Exactly.
and like really identify your goal and work towards it and not be afraid to be judged by people, not be afraid to maybe fail and stand back up from falling. And it's okay to have all those moments, because as long as you put them in, you get to learn and grow from it.
Completely. And if you're not failing, I'm sure people have said this to you already, if you're not failing, you're not growing fast enough. It means you probably peaked in kindergarten. You know, you should be falling down. If you feel like you are even succeeding through effort, you know, it's not a complete
Rachael Leigh
disaster
Cook.
70% of the time. Isn't that pretty great? So another piece of advice I like to give is budget emotionally and practically, if you can, for failure, because it's just part of it. And when you have those bad days where you're like, whoa, I really hit the wall on that, just know that you're just in that 30%. That's okay. You made space for that in your heart and in your mind.
I love that so much. I think that's so important to know, that whenever you're going through something, it's totally okay to fail, because failure is the best possible way to grow. And kind of once you accept that, knowing, oh, it's okay that I failed at this, because I can always try again. I can always like have another shot at it, and that just means that I'm slowly gonna get better at it.
And I think sometimes
Yes, well said. Very well said.
But I think sometimes the reason why, especially as teens, we're afraid to take risks and try something new, and like you said, even try something that we think we're not interested in and that maybe will eventually lead to our lifelong passion, is because other people might judge us. And being in the public eye, like an actress, leads to a lot of judgment. Everyone has an opinion. And how do you manage facing judgment from people who don't know you very well, but they still hold an opinion over you as a person in the public eye?
Again, like brass tacks, the best practical news I got about all of that is that as you get older, you care less. I remember Sylvester Stallone, I don't even know if you guys know who that is, but when I was 20, I was working with him, and I remember I was just talking about the future in a sort of abstract way, and I remember him sort of just chuckling and saying like, oh, Cook, nobody thinks they're going to be 30. And I remember him so distinctly saying that when I turned 30 and in all the days leading up to it, because it's like, God willing, you know, I promise that is going to happen. So what do you do when you're afraid of people's judgment? Know that you will be increasingly less concerned. And the less concerned you get, by default, the braver you are. And the braver you are, the more you're going to accomplish. So in the meantime, while you don't believe me that that's true, the best advice that I can give is think about the people who you like. Like really, if you're just practically, you know, just a human and you want people to like you, think about who you like. My favorite people are the ones who are like, oh my God, I fell on my face. That was a mess. I'm so human. I'm real. I fall down, I get back up. I'm learning over here, okay? The people, my least favorite kind of people, are the ones who don't seem to ever screw up or want to admit it. So if nothing else, be the kind of person who you probably like.
It's like that authenticity piece, right?
Yeah.
It's like we like people who can laugh at themselves. We like people who are not afraid to do things outside of their comfort zone, because those are the cool things. Those are the people that we look up to. Like we look up to celebrities or athletes. Those are all people who do things that are sometimes a little bit off the beaten path, or who are not afraid to be themselves, because otherwise, you know, we kind of just blend in with the crowd and we don't stand out. And we don't stand out, even though sometimes that can be a comfort to us, especially as teenagers. It also doesn't really let us embrace our own selves and attract the people and the opportunities into our life that we want.
I think authenticity is so important, and I think oftentimes teens can be so scared of being who they really are because they're afraid of being judged. But then at the same time, like Mercedes said, it can be so much harder to find your people because of that. What are your top 3 tips for teens to be able to be more authentic and to be more of themselves?
I think the reason that probably if you back it up a little bit further than even the question that you're asking, and forgive me, I can't help but do this, is that people don't feel like they know exactly who they are when they're teenagers. When people say to me, oh my God, I don't know how I could never act. I could never do that. I say, do you remember when you were a teenager and you acted a little bit different around your different friends? They would bring out different sides of you. Sometimes you would feel like a completely different person from one person to the next. I'm like, that's a lot like acting. So when you struggle with feeling centered in yourself and you know who you are, it's like, that's still playing out. So don't judge yourself for that. And remember that like your uniqueness it's the only superpower that you specifically you get. And I know it sounds generic just to say like, oh, we're all, special snowflakes, this, that, and the other, but no one's doing you and exactly your formula better than you are. So you will really be the second best person for any given job or any given friendship if you're trying to be somebody else. So unless you're trying to be second best, be the best you.
I love that so much.
That is such sweet advice.
Yeah.
Because it's true, like, we'll never be able to be like the person next to us.
Exactly.
And that's the best part. And like, once you learn to embrace the fact that you can't be that person, you can only be you, it's more like a moment of acceptance. Like, you can
Exactly.
accept it.
Like, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think knowing that, just comparing myself to this other person is just completely irrelevant because we're on two completely different paths. And I love that, you can only be the best at being yourself because there's already someone else out there. And I know sometimes we all feel like we're not good enough as ourselves, but knowing that, you look up to this person so much for just being themselves, for being authentic, that maybe there's even someone else out there who will then love the way you are, just yourself.
And I also think, your insights are so valuable, especially for us too as teens. I think they really, really click. But the thing is, like you mentioned, a lot of teenagers, they go through these things where we see a friend and we kind of emulate, we mirror their emotions, like you mentioned. We mirror how they act. If they're super, super outgoing, maybe we get more outgoing. And then if they are really into studying around a different friend, we'll be really into our studies as well. And so realizing that's draining, like it's a lot. Like, who are you? Like, embracing your own authentic self, exactly like you said, is the key to feeling like less tired and less drained around people. And the people who judge you for being you are not meant to be your friends because they are obviously not your people.
Exactly right. They're not supposed to be your people. And the people who have the energy to throw negativity at you, I promise you, they're sadder than you are. Like, for sure. My therapist told me something interesting the other day. She said the first thing I loved about this job was realizing that everybody's got their stuff. Everybody. So, yeah. And I promise you, like you said, comparison's the thief of joy. Again, like, you're just gonna have to take my word on this, but you will stop feeling that way. Like, jealousy is a major emotion for younger people that, again, like I promised, the dial on that will just naturally go down as you realize that, there's just much bigger things in life, and, it's just not a good use of your time.
100%.
I think 100%.
Because it's true, like, when you grow up, even like I feel like even comparing myself to where I was at when I was like 2 or 3 years ago, like I cared and placed so much more value in validation from my friends or from other peers and classmates. But even like as you go through teenagehood, I feel like looking back, it's like, why did I care so much about what that person thought? Like, I never even saw them again or engaged with them again. Right? So it's that moment of like, what, 5 years from now, whether it's when I'm 25, whether I'm 45, like looking back or looking forward and saying, am I even going to remember this? Am I even going to care? It's not worth that. The things that you will care and the things that you will remember about are the people who love you and the people who accept you and the fact that you followed those opportunities that came from being yourself.
And I feel like also when we're putting so much pressure on ourselves to be more like others, we kind of start to create like a mask for like who we really are. And like Mercedes said, it can be so draining. But then when we feel like we want to be more authentically ourselves, we kind of don't know really where to start because we lost ourselves. Has this ever happened to you, and how have you overcome this?
For better or worse, I don't think I've ever spent a lot of time wondering who I am, like on a deeper level. I'm like, whoa, oh no, this looks like this is what I'm stuck with. Like, it's always been, I feel like a little bit, if nothing else, a little bit like, oh no, how do I deal with this aspect of my personality? So I guess I don't quite have the lost kind of feeling, but I promise that that's also like to be expected. If you thought you knew exactly who you are at, in your preteens, late teens, heck, I don't even have a friend who would want to go back to being 27. And I'm sorry if that's daunting because it's still far away for you guys, but everything feels very fraught up until that time. Everything feels super high stakes. And then a certain just understanding comes in and your shoulders start to drop and you just go like, all right, let me get this in better perspective. And those things sort of come together. So I think it's okay if you don't feel like you know exactly who you are, because you're gonna know for better or worse at a certain point. Have you ever noticed, like with your grandparents or things, like they only become more the way they are? Like you're still finding your shapes and deciding who you want to be to an extent, but know that you're also like, you're pretty programmed. So don't go to war with your native sort of state of being. Find the best environment for it and do your best. And when you can't do your best, give it a 7. That's good enough.
I love it because it's true. Like, don't try to reprogram who you are. Embrace that. I think that's fantastic advice. I love that, Rachel. And so, obviously, you are a very highly accomplished actress. But a lot of times, even people who are super highly accomplished deal with imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt this sense of imposter syndrome? And if so, what helped you navigate those feelings?
Sure, definitely. I think early on, I absolutely felt like I had been, sort of rewarded a little bit beyond my abilities and worth, but you fall from that pretty quickly. I think I thought, why is this happening? I just watched that movie that I did and I'm not very good in it. Oh dear. And again, like you honor it with effort and humility and understanding, treat yourself the way you would, try to maybe think of like your 8-year-old self. Like you wouldn't be so mean to her, right? You'd be like, hey, it's gonna be okay. We really tried. We tried. We learned something. And when you can't do something, just think like, okay, I'm stuck here, but what did I learn?
That's fantastic advice because it's true. Like you can't undo the past or you can't, foresee the future, but you're where you're at right now and you should be grateful for that. But also I think oftentimes as teenagers, like I know this is something that I've felt before, is like you look back and you're like, why did I do that 2 years ago? Or why was I that way? Or why did I hang out with those people? But it's like, don't knock yourself or kick yourself for who you used to be, because all of those people, all those different phases that you've experienced have brought you to where you are at now, and you probably wouldn't be the same person you are now without those experiences, without those moments in your life, for better or for worse. Like even the worst moments in our life can help us realize or learn something if we let them be a lesson. And obviously tragedies happen, and that's just unfortunately how life goes, but I think it's important to remember, like, yes, maybe I had a phase of my life that I don't love, but that's okay because that person helped me become who I am now, and who I am now will help me become an even greater version of myself in the future.
100%. Count on that happening. Count on it. Like I promise you, you will have big regrets, but you'll have bigger regrets if you don't take chances, if you do play everything safe, if you don't go, you know what, I think I might be pretty bad at XYZ, but I will have a memory that will stick with me, and that pays memory dividends. That's a good thing in itself. Right? Again, I found out that I definitely don't like scuba diving. I know that now, or whatever it is. Go find out. Go find out.
I love that.
I think that's so important. And on top of that, I feel like we've all had a phase in our life where we're like, oh, that was a really special time. I kind of wish I didn't do that. But like Mercedes said, like you need to realize that everything you've done is important and it's made you who you are now. And I know you talked a lot about lessons and learning about all of those moments. So have you ever learned anything from portraying one of your characters, and what did you learn?
Similar to, again, like we've been sort of talking about being younger, it helps you tap into different versions or facets of yourself. I remember I did this movie that, sorry, but it's not great. Learned a lot. And they cut out the central conflict in the movie, which is generally a problem. But I was playing this very sort of tough character, And, she raced horses and wasn't afraid to try to fight someone bigger than her. All of this kind of crazy stuff. And I felt like I was able to carry some of that energy around with me after. And it made me realize that it was in my tool belt. And everybody has that. Sometimes I think I know for sure the best thing about being a human and not like a walrus is that you can wake up tomorrow and you can be a person who, say you bite your fingernails. All of a sudden tomorrow you're like, I'm not a person who bites my fingernails anymore. I'm still there. Or I'm not a person who does my homework at the very last minute. I'm not a walrus, so now I'm just not a person who does that anymore. Here you go. I'm a human. I have free will. I can make choices about who I am and who I want to be. And so, yeah, that was probably a tangent, but good job not being a walrus.
I love that. I think that's such a powerful mindset to have, and to know the amount of control that you have over yourself, over the habits you make, and just knowing, like, if I really don't want to be doing this, if I really want to stop biting my nails, I can do it if I put my mind to it. And I don't know, I love having that kind of mindset.
And I think it can bring you a lot of happiness too when you realize, like, if I'm watching a movie and I really want to embrace, like, a character, even if I'm not an actress, I really want to embrace, like, the energy that they have, or the, straightforwardness, or the ambition, or a certain habit that they have. Like, you can channel that because you can mold and you can learn and you can grow. And I think that when you realize and embrace the constant learning mindset, then you can find a lot of happiness in experimentation and trying new things and recognizing that this is not a unique characteristic that only a film character portrays. You can actually bring it alongside with you. And so I think that's really cool that after you played a very fierce character, you were able to, embrace that strength within your own personal life.
100%. You guys are such a dynamic duo. Have you always been friends?
Oh yeah, well, we're sisters.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I forgot that part. My bad.
Yeah, friends since we were born.
Yes.
I was born.
Since she was born. But yeah, we've no
worries.
We've always gotten along, and well, we've had our moments, but we love each other.
I was going to say, I know that's not true.
We haven't every single moment, but we have a lot of fun together.
Yeah, we've had some really good times, and then some special times too.
Exactly.
I'm sure. Some learning times.
Yes, exactly. But I know we touched on this a bit earlier, but in the frame of portraying a character, while you can learn a lot and, bring a lot of that into your own life, like different strengths and different lessons, have you ever felt that while portraying a character that you have, adapted characteristics and traits of them and kind of lost a part of your own self because of being delved into a role? Have you ever?
That sounds like some Meryl Streep level stuff, ladies. That's Viola Davis territory. I don't have to worry about that over here. I'm fine. I'm being flip about it, but the truth is most actors operate from a place of, like, their sort of central actual identity about, 20 degrees in either direction, say east or west of that. And that's where you're sort of in the pocket for being able to authentically convey something in a way that feels natural. If you're, again, like Viola or Daniel Day-Lewis or who knows who, you can really probably go to another place that makes you feel like you opened up a new section of your brain. And I'm sure that's cool. But the stuff that I kind of like feels a little bit more easygoing.
I love that. And I love that when we watch your films, then we can really see a part of you in your role. And I think that's amazing, like when you kind of convey yourself. And I think it's also very cool because as someone who has never really acted, I think it's a very fun fact to know that, like, most of the time, most actors and actresses are within the realm of themselves and still portraying some of those characteristics.
That's why it, like, lands with you, or that's why certain people resonate with you, If it was all fake, like, whew, that would just be hard.
It's almost like, if you're putting up a front to be friends with someone, you're like, I really want to be friends with this person, and I'm just going to emulate them, but I'm nothing like them. They're just cool in my eyes, so I want to be like them. Like, it's really hard to do that, especially for a long amount of time, because again, it's hard to reprogram who you are on the inside, and it really takes a lot from you to do that, and it's just not sustainable.
For sure. And I think acting, you definitely, you need to make sure that you're doing something that you feel like you truly believe in. And it's so hard to take on a role that's like, well, this is kind of like the opposite of my character. So I would kind of need to tweak at least a few things about myself just to be able to play the role as good as possible.
Exactly. And we all do contain multitudes. Again, like maybe, you do play someone who's completely the opposite of you, and you realize that there is part of you that identifies with that, and that's a cool discovery. So yeah, not getting too locked into what your supposed identity is I guess important as well.
Fantastic.
That is such a great piece of advice, just knowing that you can change and just being open to that, I think, is so important as well. And, being an actress must be so time intensive. You're spending so much time, not just on set, but you're also memorizing lines and everything.
And you're also a producer as well, so there's a lot.
Yeah, how do you create a good work-life balance so you're still able to spend time with your family, do your work and producing, but at the same time also have time for yourself?
Well, as you can see, my kids are running around here. I just picked them up from school. Work in front of your kids if you have that option. I'd say the biggest thing that I think is necessary, and my dad had a really stressful job when I was growing up, but I think my takeaway from that was like, being a grown-up is going to suck. It looks really, really hard. My dad seemed stressed like all the time. My mom sort of rolled with it a little bit more, but she was home a bit more. But the best piece of advice in terms of work-life balance is if I can show my kids that it's possible to have a job that you just actually love, that makes you feel like you're thriving and giving back to the world at large as your best self, or you're shining in your individual skill set. Just showing them that that's possible is the best thing that I think that I can do. Am I gone too much? Am I gone more than they would like? Yeah. And when people say, how do you balance, work and family? My answer is always with mixed results. So we do our best, and just try to have a continued dialogue about it.
That's fantastic. And what I really love is like what you said, when you're with your kids, like it's okay to have work mixed into that. And I think that what I try to do is like be really intentional. Like no matter how much time you have with your family, like don't be on your phone when you are with them or when you are with your friends. Like actually be in the moment, catch up on life. Like whatever amount of time you have, really enjoy and embrace that time.
Well said. Very well said. You guys are good at this.
Oh, thank you. Well, your insights are really, really terrific.
Yes,
and
they have been
I would
amazing.
love to know, what has been one of your most significant and favorite memories of your career?
It's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit corny to say, but the best thing about what I do, sometimes I don't think is the acting, sometimes I think it's the people. Like you will know when you're where you're supposed to be, sometimes just because of the company that you're keeping, and if you just feel like you're sort of with your tribe. Actors are a lot of us are people who really like to bond really quickly, to just like get into it, that we don't like small talk. We're oftentimes, look, everybody's different, but it's where I sort of feel like I belong, and that's something that I need personally. So maybe if you're someone who's maybe more of a solo flyer, then maybe that's not something that wouldn't resonate with you maybe as much, but the best thing about what I do is the people, this very, very special people who I've met and the friends that I've made along the way. So kind of a generic answer, but it's true.
That sounds so amazing. I think that being in a career that really resonates with you as a person is so amazing because you get to meet so many amazing people who also, are like you. I'm sure there's been many experiences where you've met people who aren't exactly the same as you, and you're not going to be the best of friends. But that also means that the more people you go around, the more people you spend time with, you will be able to meet someone that you love and that you resonate with.
Yeah, your community. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And happiness, so much of it comes from connection. And so when you are able to be around people who accept you and who you appreciate and who appreciate you, and you can really connect with them, is, I think, a big source of where we can find that happiness, and not, thinking that if we are in a school or in a club or in a career and surrounded by people who we don't really click with, that is a problem with us. Like, it's okay to move around and change your environments, quit something just to make room and time for something different and better, because at the end of the day, like, there is somebody out there for you, be it in a friend or in a partner, and there's always like room to grow, and it's okay to it's okay to pivot in order to find those people. And again, like that's a really good indicator of you are in a good place, be it, you know, work-wise or school-wise or extracurricular-wise, is like you have people who you really click with.
Yeah, and there will be, just to talk about pivoting this way or that, when you're young, that's the time to do it. Because at a certain point, things get put into place. You know, like when you're in your maybe late 20s to 30s, I guess in this day and age, early 40s, but that's maybe when you decide if you want to have a family, or your career gets locked in. And one of the other favorite pieces of advice that someone gave me was, you know, take your 20s, take your 30s if you can, to feel your freedom, because not to say that it gets yanked from you. You have autonomy as a person who can make choices in this world. But society will expect certain things of you at a certain point. So if you ever feel adrift, try relabeling it as just the freedom that you have, that you may not one day. So try to make friends with it.
It's like embracing the uncertainty and like embracing like the fact that sometimes you don't know exactly where you are headed, and that's okay. And like just appreciating the moment and being in the present moment rather than always worrying about the next 5 steps ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
For sure. And you know, I think that you have such an amazing dream career. I know so many people dream of becoming an actor or an actress. What would you advise for teens to do to take a major step forward towards achieving this goal?
Exactly.
It's going to sound a little bit generic, but I promise it applies to acting too. Look at your motivations. It's like if you want to become a doctor because you want to make a lot of money, that's not why you be a doctor. There's other ways to make a lot of money. Also, don't do that if that's why you want to be an actor. Or if you want to act because you just want people to bear witness to your specialness. I don't know, just plain have a YouTube channel. If you want to act, you can act and also work at the post office or be a brain surgeon or anything. Anyone can go act in community theater. If you are just trying to get people to go, you are not just popular in this social group, you are life popular, you are globe popular. Look at yourself first. Look at your motivations for wanting to do something first. But in terms of like, if you just plain want to go act, make stuff with your friends. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait for some amazing director to just find out who you are and go, you're it. Come be in a movie. This is a time unlike any other where you guys could literally go shoot a movie on your iPhone and it can get into a festival and all of a sudden you made your own destiny. So even though the noise of what gets attention is, you know, deafening because we have the internet and everything, there's never been a time where your future is more in your own hands. So believe in your own power to get your own voice out there and be seen if it's that time.
It's like
that is so amazing.
It's like what you said at the beginning of our podcast today. It's like effort is the favorite of luck. Like if you want to be lucky and you want to be in a movie and you want to have an award and you want to have a career in acting, like take the effort, put in the time and the effort to make your own destiny. And maybe it's not in the same path as you think it's gonna be necessarily, like getting picked up by a producer at first, but you know, just putting things out there, submitting auditions and like creating your own films, and that way people can watch them, give you feedback, you can learn, you can get better, and like you said, you can maybe even launch your own career through getting into like a film fest or something like that. And I think that's really terrific advice, because I think a lot of times we sit around saying, I'm waiting for my big break, I'm waiting for my big break, I'm waiting to be spotted, and like it's gonna happen because I'm super, you know, unique. But it's like there's people out there who are also super talented that are working hard to make their own destiny. So if you want to be one of them, you have to put in the effort.
Exactly. And you know, I feel like people also are extremely interested in producing. I know that you've produced some amazing movies as well. What are your top tips for teens who are interested in producing their own movies?
Look at what you like. When you turn on the TV and you do that scroll that we all do where you're like, not that, not that, not that. Think about what you do wish was there. Or you think, I would watch that, but it looks a little bit too sad. Or I would watch that, but I wish that they were older and it didn't seem kind of like something that I'd seen before. Think about, even if it's in general terms, what you wish was out there, and don't ever be afraid to reverse engineer your way into a solution. Because you're not the only person who wants to see what that is. Often, like, with the first Netflix movie that I did, it started a little bit with me going like, how on earth have I not, I was like, I could totally play a lawyer. I could completely, how come no one's cast me as a lawyer? And then I sort of thought backwards about an interesting case and a situation and blah, blah, blah. And managed to work that out for myself in reverse. So in terms of like, how do you become a producer? Yeah, think about what you want to see. Same as with anything in life. If you're not sure what you want to do as a career, advice that I've heard, I didn't come up with this, is just make a list of things that you just plain like. If those things, my friend Courtney wrote down this list, two of those things were, I like attending weddings, they bring me a lot of joy, and I love entertaining at my house. And then she started like a bridal event company. It's just like things that, that are uniquely magnetic to you are a great way towards just finding your happiest future.
That is terrific.
I think that's amazing because you really don't realize how many different types of jobs are out there. Especially, I feel like a lot of the times we kind of get like we see like a certain like platter of like opportunities that could be for us, or like what we could study or and everything. And I've never heard of like that kind of advice. Like write down the things you like and then kind of create a career and job out of that. Like, I don't know, I feel like that is so insightful and amazing.
Yeah, and like solve your own problem. Like if you see a problem and you're like, why is there no product that does that? You could try to invent that product and fill that kind of gap. Or if you are big into films and you want to work in the industry and you're like, why is there no movie that expresses this lesson? Or why is there no movie with these different factors and or characters in it? Like, why not make it? Why not be the one to bring that into our world? I think that's so terrific. It's like solving your own pain points because other people likely share them.
100%. Believe in your own taste.
Exactly. So thinking back to your teenage days, what is one piece of advice you wish you could give to your teenage self?
I knew I was going to talk to you guys, and I was really trying to remember being a teenager. And I remember one thing that I thought, oh, it's going to sound so ridiculous, but I need to say it. But I remember when I was a teenager thinking to myself, like, oh, I feel so sorry for older people because they must feel like so irrelevant and like they must feel so old all the time. They just have to walk around and just know that they're old and just be old. And I was thinking of people who are younger than me now. So like, let me be clear. I mean, I'm very young when I'm thinking this, but I remember thinking, oh, getting older looks terrible. And I promise you it is not. It is great. It is highly recommend. Like, you have so much more autonomy and, again, peace. And I know that it's a very silly thing to say to your younger self, but like, I promise you, this is not, no offense, but this is not like the peak of, your life. You're lovely, but I promise you, like, who you are is only getting cooler.
I love that so much. I think that oftentimes, I don't know why, but I feel like there's this constant fear of getting older when you're younger.
Even like when I was 10, I was scared of being a teenager.
Exactly. That's so normal. That's so normal. And literally, I promise you, we're not like, oh, I would never want to go backwards. That's not a story that we're telling ourselves. Like, yeah, like I wish I didn't sometimes have to wear reading glasses. It's kind of annoying. But other than that, the perspective and the peace that you get, and yeah, and being able to feel like you have more control to, make your dreams real and understanding all these things, like, it is worth it. I promise. I'll get back to you about being 80. That does look like kind of hard sometimes. But who knows? I've heard that that's actually the happiest demographic. So let's find out, right?
Exactly. And like just embracing the fact that like you can't control getting older. Like none of us can control the fact that in a few years we are going to be older. Like that's just how it goes.
I remember one of my biggest fears when I was 10. Wait, no, you were 12 then.
Yeah.
So I think I was 8. I was so scared that when you were going to turn 13 because I was like, when Mercedes turns 13, she's not going to want to play with me anymore. And then, who will I play with? And I remember I was so scared of Mercedes not wanting to play with me anymore.
Mercedes, did you know that?
No, I didn't know she was feeling that way. You didn't tell me that. But when I was 13, I think we still played it at some point.
No, we didn't.
Maybe we didn't. Maybe your fear had some reality.
It's okay. Mercedes was feeling herself for a minute there. That's all right.
It's a part of the process of getting older.
It is a part of the process.
We find other ways. Like now we podcast and we work
Yeah,
together.
exactly.
And like
Now it's like a different type of
different.
play.
But like you find other things to like fill in and that feel the same way. And I think that like when we work together, it feels the same way as like when we used to play together. And so like you find other things that are similar but for you when you're older. And so like don't feel like when you have a job you're never going to be able to like have freedom or have time off. Like I know for a fact that like a lot of my friends had jobs over the summer this year and like they loved it because it's a great experience. You get to, feel responsible for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was wondering, it's a question we love to ask everyone. What brings you a small bit of happiness every day? Like something small that you do?
This is such a wonderful thing about your podcast because, God, I love all those, like the, positive news, Instagram things and this and that's why it appealed to me so much what you guys are doing because it's important work that you're doing. What brings me a small bit of happiness every day? My crazy little dog. She's just so present and she is so comforting to me, just having her around. I love my kids. Just being honest with you, kids will, teach you about an unconditional and deep kind of love that will give you purpose forever. They're not comforting. My dog is comforting. Love my kids.
Aw, we love our dog too. They're just so sweet. They're always there for you. They always love you. I think that's they're just the best.
I know. Our dog Coco, like when I got back from school today, she was so excited to see me. She started licking my socks. I was like
there's nothing like, and she's the best example of, I wish that I lived more like her. I wish I was a little bit more just joyful and present. And so, yeah, I don't just love her, I admire her.
I know, they seem so happy and carefree, and I just think it's true. Like, just being in the present moment brings a lot of happiness. I think dogs are really, really great at that. Like, they are in the present moment, they're enjoying their treat, they're enjoying spending time with their loved ones, and I think that we should all strive
for sure.
In
my next life, I hope to be Coco, because she just sleeps all day. She goes in the sun and suntans.
Yeah.
She has the easiest life.
I want to be Coco, too. That sounds wonderful.
I know, right? So do you have a certain motivating quote that you love and remember, and if so, why?
I heard an interesting quote about motivation the other day, which is that motivation is false. There's no such thing as how do I get motivated? There's only the feeling that you have of being glad after. Like my kids, I say this so many times, I feel sorry for them. If they were here, I'd be like, what does mom always say? Because they say like, but we don't want to such and such. I'm like, guys, great news. You don't have to want to. You just have to do it. They're like, they're not happy with that answer. But don't wait to be motivated, I guess, is the answer about that question. Because you'll always just be glad that you did the thing. I guess the other good advice would be, let me see, again, this is all just recycled. I'm not coming up with this. The results that you're looking for are in the work that you're avoiding. Like whatever you're wanting to do the least, that's probably where the thing that you want the most is. They're tied up in each other. So look at that when you can.
I love that.
Both so terrific.
I feel like sometimes, especially like with your second quote, I think it's really important because sometimes, like, let's say we, filmed an entire movie and, Mercedes and I starred in it and everything. It's like the two of us and it's amazing. We've showed it to like our whole family. Everyone loves it. They're like, you should release it on YouTube and it'll go viral. But you're scared of the people at your school seeing it, which is a valid concern because they might be like, what is this? But if you don't do it, you won't get the results of maybe getting recognition. Maybe you'll be able to get featured at a film festival for, best duet movie or something. Like,
absolutely. and really like recognize jealousy when it shows its face. Like what they're doing is going like, oh, I'm mad that they did a brave thing. I'm mad that they did a brave thing that took effort and that took confidence. And what does that say about me that I'm not doing that? What you know, so I'm just going to be, it's real easy to be a hater. It's so easy. It's so unfortunately easy, and it's desperately uninteresting.
Exactly. And like when you feel like you're jealous of someone else, realize that like I have the power to be like them, like not in the exact same sense. So like I have the power to put my best foot forward and take the leap. And so like rather than spending my time thinking relentlessly about someone else and how they're doing something awesome, do something really awesome with your own time that follows your own passion. Look at your list of what you enjoy and pick something there and just go for it, because what do you have to lose?
And also, I think it's interesting because let's say you're jealous of your friend because they turned into like a social media influencer and you really feel like you're jealous of them for being a social media influencer. But if you write down your list, you're not really that interested in doing that, but you still feel jealous of them for having that. It's interesting because I think you need to like actually narrow down, what are you jealous of? Are you jealous of the fact that they're an influencer? Are you jealous of the fact that people that they're like famous, or that, you know, people will recognize them, or they have a big following on social media? Like, is that what you're jealous of, or are you jealous of them genuinely being an influencer? Yeah. And would you want to be in their position?
Yeah, you're jealous of their results, and not the actual product. They did something that got results.
And it's important also to focus on like they also have challenges and bad days, and everyone does.
And just hanging out and knowing that they're going to fall down too, that's a waste of your time. And yeah, exactly. If it seems like people have something that you want, get clearer about what it is that you want. If you want the same thing as them, don't beat yourself up for that. And take every opportunity to be positive about people who are, you know, go up to that person. And the fastest way to not go like, oh, they're everything that I'm not, is if you do a confident thing by just expressing positivity. If you're like, I really love your channel, it's really super good, like you're killing it, good job, and walk away. Like just, it will make them feel good, and that kind of positivity just only brings good things into the world, as you guys well know, or you wouldn't be doing this.
Exactly.
Of course.
Just find the positivity and the happiness, and by being kind to others, you feel happier too. Better than hating or being mean to somebody will ever make you feel, is by being kind.
And by the way, that stuff doesn't age well. Anybody even thinking about bullying someone online for something, blah, da, 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 this and that. First of all, it sticks around. Don't be a jerk. Your future employers are gonna see it, and you're gonna look like an immature idiot. So try to be just like a classy adult as soon as possible. Please, everybody.
Exactly.
I think it's so important just to treat people with respect, even if, you know, you don't like them, or maybe they were disrespectful to you. That doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful back to them.
Exactly.
And just knowing that like their actions are a reflection of themselves.
Exactly. So a little pivot in the conversation, but do you have anything exciting coming up that you'd like to share with us? Maybe projects, events?
I am developing a couple things right now that I can't speak about until we, you know, have everything inked out. But I'm very lucky to be busy. I work for a company called Fox. They're the sort of overarching company of another sort of brand called Mar Vista, and we make a lot of feel-good content, and I feel really good in that space. So yeah, there's some more stuff coming down the pike that we're pretty deep in, but yeah, I wish I could say more about that, sorry. But yeah, lucky to be busy.
Of course, we totally get it, and we love feel-good movies,
yes.
So we're very excited and can't wait to see what comes next.
Exactly, we'll stay tuned.
Exactly, and where can our audience find you if they want to keep up and learn more?
Oh, thank you. I think my Instagram, I would have to double check it. I think it's my whole name, Rachael Leigh Cook, Rachael, Leigh Cook. And I don't even remember what my used to be called Twitter handle is, so good luck to me there. But I just want to say thank you to both of you for being such shining positive examples to kids, my kids' age and younger, and your peers. Like, you honestly, it's corny to say, but you give me hope for the future. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's so
That
kind
is
of
so
you to say.
sweet.
You guys are going to be a great success too, by the way. Like, spoiler alert, you're going to do everything you want to do. Don't be mad if it takes a minute. You're going to get all the way there. Like, I'll be watching, okay?
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness.
And thank you so much to Rachel for joining us today. This is such an incredible amount of advice, and I just feel like we learned so much from Rachel today. Anastasia, what's your biggest takeaway?
I think my biggest takeaway is that you need to work for luck. I feel like oftentimes we look at other people and we're like, oh, they're so lucky, they got all those followers, they've gotten to where they are by just pure luck. But you have to realize that they have worked really, really hard for that, and luck doesn't just come to anyone. Luck comes to those people who work really hard and they try to create opportunities for themselves, and eventually they'll succeed.
Exactly.
What about you, Mercedes?
I love that so much, and I think that's something we should all remember and work towards. My biggest takeaway from Rachel today is just to not care as much about what others think, because it gets better. It gets better, and I feel like Rachel really talked about this today, is like, when you're an adult, you care a lot less about what other people around you think, and mistakes matter a lot less. So just go for it, embrace your passions, and blossom into who you truly are without fearing failure or judgment.
If you enjoyed this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, please leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it.
Also, be sure to join our happiness family. It's completely free and we'd love to have you. And you can do that by following this podcast on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now. See you next time.